Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. Things just jumped to a whole nother level. My goodness, I did not expect all of this. Oh my gosh, here we go. Radiant Lotus, a brand new Lotus that is absolutely crazy. Now, it is one that does cost 6 mana, but the payoff is going to be huge. And there's also a part of it that's just a bit weird. Regardless, artifact for 6, tap, sacrifice 1 or more artifacts, choose a color. Target player adds 3 mana of the chosen color for each artifact sacrificed this way. Obviously a callback to Black Lotus, which was 0 mana, so 6 less than this, and basically did the exact same thing if it was just sacrificing itself. So keep in mind, yes, you can have it sacrifice itself. That being said, yeah, mass artifact sacrifice Lotus was not on my bingo card, so I missed that when it comes to guessing cards from this set, but my goodness, this is huge. This is a card that says, hey, are you in an artifact deck and just want to be able to just throw down the gauntlet to your opponents and like make an absurd amount of mana? Be like, oh yeah, I've got a couple artifacts lying around, or I've got like some artifact tokens here, there, everywhere, clue tokens, treasure tokens, of course, yes. All of the above. Yeah, let me just sacrifice all those and add an absurd amount of mana. By the way, you're not forced to sacrifice this as well. You can if you want that extra 3 mana. But if you're like, oh, well, I've got, 4 artifacts I want to sacrifice, which again, isn't even that many to consider to have in play, right? It's like, oh, I played a mere battle sphere. Cool, I've got some artifacts in play that I can just sacrifice now, and all of a sudden you get a free extra, again, I said 4, I think, right? 12 mana just to utilize just from tapping this 6 mana rock. So, yeah, that is a huge effect, a massive effect. And of course, there are certain decks out there that actually even want to sacrifice artifacts, and talk about one commander here in a little bit that we might be getting that might have something to do with that as well. But yeah, basically, again, literally triples up the value from your treasures at the very least, which is crazy. Again, just generates you an absurd amount of value. And the weird thing about it that I kind of skipped over but said it, but target player adds. Target player? Why am I giving an opponent that much mana? I mean, okay, there are certain scenarios where this might come in handy, and the ability to actually give another opponent that mana, yeah, is better than not having the ability, obviously. So being able to give another player that ability and say, hey, you know what? Does anyone have a solution for what's going on here? That player over there has a massive board. Anyone else have a good solution? And then another player says, well, if only I had an extra 9 mana, I could use my tutor and go get a Wrath. And you're like, well, you're in luck. I've got an extra 9 mana for you. So yes, this is a solution, apparently, to that. Obviously, like, two-headed giant could utilize it too and that kind of stuff as well. I guess you can politic with it. So yes, there is that aspect to it. I don't know why they specified target player. You're just like, hey, you're welcome. Usually this would just be for yourself, but you're welcome. Yeah, so it's a massive card. It is a huge effect. Is it for every deck? Absolutely not. If you don't have artifacts to sacrifice, no, don't do it. But yeah, if you've got, artifact token generators, if you've got just a go wide artifact strategy, if you've got an artifact recursion strategy, if you've got a treasure, clue, etc., food, all the different artifact types, yeah, you're going to want to consider this card. And it might be kind of expensive. Again, it is a Lotus and it is a mythic. My goodness. Moving on. Burnout, Bastronaut. A 1/1 Goblin Warrior with Menace for a single red mana. Start your engine. So again, once it gets to max speed, well, max speed's going to be this creature has double strike, which is very lovely. And also pay 2, gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Now, this is a cool card. I don't think it's going to quite make the cut in Goblin decks. Like, it is nice that it gets double strike, but typically in Goblin decks, like, you are just trying to go super wide without really caring too much about going tall. I mean, maybe a little bit, but for the most part, you're like, let's just go wide, and who cares? Yeah, and so just getting, like, a 1/1 with Menace that you can, like, Fire Breather pump for 2 mana. Yeah, like Steel Helicite, essentially. Like, that's just okay. So yeah, sure, once it has double strike, yeah, I mean, it can be a good attacker for you. I mean, early on it's a good attacker as well, but like in Commander, you're looking for a bit more impact when it comes to cards. And again, with a Goblin deck specifically, you got a lot of options for that. So yeah, that's just my opinion though. Other Goblin players out there, Warrior players, might consider it for their decks. Moving on. Got Regal imperiosaur. This card is guaranteed to see play. A 5/4 dinosaur for 3 mana in green. Other dinosaurs you control get ++1. Very simple, very effective. Hi, Yeah, excuse me. Do you have a dino deck? Well, my name's Timmy, so yes, I have a dino deck. Yes, you most definitely do have a dino deck. Cool. All right. Play this. It's amazing, and it absolutely, yeah, Timmy's absolutely love dino decks. I mean, other players do as well. Like, as a Johnny, I also love a good dino deck too, but yes. It's a 5/4 for 3 mana, already, again, well above the curve when it comes to the power and toughness for that amount of mana, and it also just pumps your entire rest of the team. Absolutely lovely. So yes, of course, Dinosaur Tribal, as well as like Changeling Tribal decks as well, could utilize it too. Or just in general, like if you have like a Stompy Power Matters deck essentially, and you've got like a 3 mana 5/4, you might consider for that as well, especially if you have some other dinosaurs in there. And of course, there's plenty of Stompy dinos like Giganosaurus, etc., etc. So yeah, dinosaur fans out there, absolutely fall in love with Regal imperiosaur. Next up, Skyserpent Seeker, a 1/1 snake with flying and death touch for 2 mana. In Simic. Exhaust for 4 reveal cards to the top of your library and to reveal 2 land cards for those cards on the battlefield tapped, and then the rest of my library in random order, put a counter on this creature. Okay, so this is basically Baleful Strix meets Explosive Vegetation minus the card draw. Basically, in a way. I mean, Explosive Vegetation plus like a counter for some reason. But yeah, it is a very interesting card for sure. Like, I'm thinking of like a Flying Men type strategy, like a low-to-the-ground evasive type deck. Yeah, like Edric Spymaster Trest. This is the kind of card that might be able to make the cut because, like, it is, again, like, slightly above the curve, which is kind of weird for a 2-mana card, but slightly above the curve for mostly Flying Men. The low-to-the-ground 1/1 flyers, usually for 1 mana, but it gives you that, oh, if I need to get extra lands into play, I can. And that Death Touch does come in handy as well. That being said, of course, yeah, just in general, if you have like a Flyers deck, obviously, if you have a Snake deck, obviously, if you've got a counter strategy, maybe as well, like, because you can get a counter on this as well to, like, utilize it some ramp too. It's interesting for sure. And obviously, keep in mind with a Blink deck, you can reset this too. So that is a consideration as well. Because with the exhaust, you can only activate each ability only once, or this ability only once. But essentially, again, if you blink it, it comes back as a separate card, essentially, considering, and you can exhaust it again and again. And again, and again, if you keep blinking it. So that is a consideration as well. It's a very interesting card for sure. If you've got like I need evasive creatures type build and I get like combat damage triggers, definitely consider it too. Or I guess there's a Death Touch Tribal. I did not even mention that too. But yes, most definitely a very cool and interesting card. And keep in mind, it does say 2 land cards. I did say Explosive Vegetation, but like it does say 2 land cards, not basics. So it can be whatever land you hit off the top. So that might kind of hurt your mana fixing, like if you need very specific lands, but it can also very much help you instead of being like, oh yeah, I just say like a tri-land or something like that. Great, awesome, that helps my fixing even more so. Yeah, so it's random, but it's nice. Next up though, oh my goodness, Gonti is back at it, Night Minister, and Gonti is here to share the spoils this time. Previously, Gonti was like, you know what, I'll look at the top cards of your library, and I'm stealing one of them. This time, Gonti's like, everyone's stealing everything from everybody. A 3/4 Aetherborn Rogue for 4 mana in black. Whenever a player casts a spell they don't own, that player creates a treasure token. Lovely. Tell me more. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller looks at the top card of that opponent's library, exiles it face down. They may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Mana of any type can be spent to cast a spell this way. Now, here's the thing, and I just want to point this out first because this is an amazing design. I absolutely love it. Are there certain bad matchups for this commander? Yeah, I mean, like, if you're happy to be playing against, like, a Tiny Bones deck, like, I think Trinket Thief, right? That one essentially casts opponent's spells, too, by stealing them. I'm pretty sure that's how that works, right? With stash counters and whatnot. But yeah, any kind of a commander that, like, steals opponent spells, like, send triplets, yeah, that player's going to be getting free treasures from you without actually even utilizing your Gonti ability. That being said, vast majority of decks don't do that. And yes, it's a really cool kind of card. It basically, I mentioned Edric Spymaster Trest earlier, which is kind of a good comparison to this one in a way where Edric is like, everyone attack everyone else except for me, and you get to draw cards. Yay! And by the way, I'm going to cast a bunch of extra turn spells, and you're never going to get turned again, and I win. That's how Edric works. This one more so is, everyone attack everyone else except for me again. And all of a sudden, we all get access to each other's spells and free mana with treasures. Yay! So yeah, being able to encourage your opponents to actively attack each other is hilarious and fun. And also just the kind of chaotic nature. It's not a chaos commander, I would say, but it is like kind of a chaotic nature of like, Who's going to be attacking who? Is it based on who's open, or is it based on, like, that player's got some amazing cards in their deck, and I want to get some haymakers? Absolutely swing at them. And then what, you hit off the top of the library? Oh, that's mine now? Oh, your card's over there, your card's over there, your card's over there. This is one of those where you really hope that everyone's got different colored sleeves at the end of the match, because you're like,
whose cards are these? I've got 108 cards in my deck now.
yeah, this is a really fun commander. Yeah, artifact, treasure synergies as well. And of course, we're going to be jumping into a quick take on this one. Make sure you pick up your cards around this one soon, because I can imagine this one's going to be quite popular. It's quite a spicy commander. Let's jump into it. All right, so starting things off first with Sturge, a 1/1 insect bat with flying that costs a single black mana. It's like, is he like Seal, kind of, you know, like that one name, just one name? Sturge? Okay. Sturge can't block, blood drain for 1 and a black, pay 1 life, sacrifice it, draw a card. So, again, the name of the game with a commander like this is very well flying men in some ways, essentially, right? Just a low to the ground evasive strategy where you're like, okay, I get low to the ground things out, I swing, I get my commander out, I keep swinging, and then I get an absurd amount of value off my opponent's decks, essentially, getting a bunch of treasures as well. So yeah, if you go wide with a lot of low to the ground evasive creatures, you can get an absurd amount of value. And of course, yeah, if you need to actually sacrifice this draw card, you can. 1 life is no big deal at all. Next up, Battle Fly Swarm, a 1/1 Phyrexian insect with flying again for a single black mana. You can also pay a black to give it death touch to top turn. So this is one where it's like, okay, usually flying is enough to get through on at least one opponent. That being said, it's also, you know what? Hey, oh, you all have flyers, right? Okay, well, who's got the biggest, best flyer that they aren't going to want to block with when I pay a single black mana to give this death touch? Yeah, so either lose your giant creature over there, or let me through and let me to the top of your library and a treasure, please. It's also a decent blocker as well for you, too, just to keep this back and be like, yeah, I've got 1 black mana open. Yeah, swing at me. Go ahead. I'll lose my little 1/1 with death touch now. Bye. Next up, Tormented Soul, 1/1 spirit that has 1 mission for 1 mana. Tormented Soul cannot attack. Oh, sorry, can't attack. Can't block and is unblockable. This would be terrible if it couldn't attack. Basically, again, it can't attack, but it's unblockable. That would just be a very interesting card. Okay, so this one, again, not be able to block. Who cares? The name of the game is Swing, Swing, Swing. Again, this is just so good. So low to the ground, just get it out and just keep swinging. Fairy Dream Thief, yet another. Again, we've gotten so many great low to the ground evasive creatures these days. You want to use a lot of them. A 1/1 Fairy Warlock with flying for a single black mana enters the battlefield, surveil 1, which is a nice way to essentially set yourself up for your next draw. Or, yeah, keep in mind that obviously with this commander, like, your opponents are going to be worried about the top of their libraries. And you can be like, oh, if you only got a benefit off of me when you hit me, look at this great card. Yeah, don't intimidate them too much with that, or yeah, taunt them too much. They might just come after you anyways. Regardless, pay 2 and a black, exile from your graveyard, you draw a card and lose 1 life. So again, a lot of value to be had here, and at the very least, a low to the ground evasive creature. Dothy Horror. Oh my goodness. 2/1. I think it's a Dothy. I don't think it's a beast anymore, but regardless, for 2 mana. It has shadow, and it can't be blocked by white creatures, which is kind of irrelevant for the most part because no one's playing any creatures with shadow, really. So this is just basically unblockable. Shadow means that it can only be blocked with creatures with shadow. Yeah, essentially, and it can only block creatures with shadow, which really doesn't matter at all because it's just basically unblockable because no one plays creatures with shadow. So yeah, again, the fact that it can't be blocked by white creatures, that's cool too. But yeah, being able to get a low to ground evasive creature that is basically unblockable, you want a lot of those. Agent Iron Throw, though, another great card to consider. It's a legendary champion background for 3 mana in black. Commander creatures you own have. Whenever an artifact or a creature control from the grave from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. So again, you're going to be going wide. A lot of low to the ground evasive creatures. Great. If they get taken out, oh no, my opponents are going to be drained for that. But of course, on top of that, and more importantly, all those treasures that you are making now drain every single opponent because you're going to be sacrificing them. And yes, even tokens technically hit the graveyard. So yeah, every single time you hit an opponent, they're losing life from getting hit, obviously. And then you make the treasures and you use that mana and then you punish them with that, essentially, which is quite fun. Speaking of punishing them, Thieving Amalgam. Beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you manifest the top card of that player's library, which means you make a 2/2 essentially out of the top card, which is quite nice, put it face down. So of course, you are, well, expanding your army again. Every opponent's upkeep, that is 3 of these 2/2s every single trip around the table, so go even wider. On top of that, whenever a creature you control but don't own dies, its owner loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So of course, these manifested creatures, great, you get to drain opponents for that. But of course, on top of that, all the creatures that you were stealing off the top of your opponent's decks, yeah, when they get taken out as well, you are draining them too. Vampire Cutthroat, another keyword to keep in mind is Skulk. A 1/1 Vampire Rogue with Skulk that costs single black mana and has a lifelink as well. It can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. Cool. your opponents most likely will have a creature that is larger than 1. Mostly all their creatures are probably going to be larger than 1, or at least one opponent will not have a 1/1 essentially. So yeah, you can get through on basically anyone with this, and some nice life gain there is good too. Changeling Outcast, yet another Tormented Soul, basically a 1/1 that can't block and can't be blocked. Again, all you care about is just get this in play and swing away. It's also Changeling if there's any kind of like tribal synergies out there for whatever reason. Next up, Disciple of the Vault, a 1/1 human cleric for a single black mana. Whenever an artifact is put in a grave from the battlefield, you may have target opponent lose 1 life. This says, again, an artifact, not an artifact you control. Meaning, hey, everyone, yeah, again, just everyone get out there, swing through, hit each other. Great, make some treasures. That's awesome. Good for everyone. All right, and now when you actually sacrifice those treasures, I'm going to drain people. I'm going to drain players. Again, it's a targeted way to drain players, so even though some players might be hesitant, like, oh, well, I got these treasures, I don't know if I should use them because I don't want to be drained. Be like, don't worry about it. Let's make a deal, all right? You don't attack me with that creature over there, and you know what? When you sacrifice those treasures, I'm going to drain that player over there. Sorry, Bruce. Anyways, yeah, it's a great way to drain your opponents whenever you or your opponents are sacrificing artifacts or whenever any artifacts hit the graveyard. Speaking of which, Tarion Soul Cleaver, yes please. Creature has Vigilance, equip 2 for a single mana to get this out. Whenever another artifact or creature is put in the grave from the battlefield, put a counter on equip creature. Throw this on Gonti, and all of a sudden, Gonti is a Voltron commander. This is a very simple way to Voltron your commander with absolutely no effort, really. You just get this in play, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, put this on Gonti. I sacrifice some treasures, you sacrifice some treasures, everyone sacrifices some treasures, some creatures die, and all of a sudden, oh, Gonti's got 21 power. Okay, for whatever reason, now I have a one-shot KO commander, or don't even put it on your commander again, because you have evasive creatures out there, so it's like, oh yeah, I can just easily get through with this one, shadow creature, or unblockable creature, or even flying creature, and it's going to be hitting for a ton. Speaking of a ton, Marionette Master, yes, 1/3, Human Artificer for 6 mana, Fabricate 3. Get 3 counters on it. Don't get the servos. Whenever an artifact you control from the grave from the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to Marionette Master's power. Yeah, again, the more power this has, which at a base level, if you do put the counters on it, is 4. Now, any artifact in the graveyard, again, including treasures that you control, that's draining for 4 to 1 player. That's going to go very, very quickly. And of course, keep in mind, if you've got like Tarion Soul Cleaver attached to this, goodbye everyone else very quickly. Next up, Marionette Apprentice, 1/2, Fabricate 1. Another creature or artifacts you control is put grave from the battlefield. Each opponent loses 1 life. This one, you do want to actually get the servo out because the extra counter doesn't really matter all that much. What matters is getting an extra creature in play. But yeah, again, yet another way to just drain opponents whenever artifacts are hitting the graveyard. Staff Feed and Vault's Key, a way to take advantage of, well, stealing things essentially. When this enters the battlefield, put target legendary permanent card not named Staff of Eden Vault's Key from a graveyard on the battlefield under control, so steal other things potentially, which is nice. More importantly though, tap, draw a card for each permanent you control but don't own. That's going to be a lot. Again, you're hitting your opponents, you're making treasures, you're stealing their things, and also I talked about another way or two to steal things too, so do that as well. But yes, be able to just be like, oh, okay, cool. Tap, draw 8. Yay! That's well worth it for a 6 mana artifact. Nether Trader, yet another great shadow creature as well. $3 or $4 right now. Wizard, reprint it, please. 1/1 Spirit with haste and shadow for 2 black mana. Another creature you control is put in grave from play. You may pay a single black mana. If you do, bring it back from the graveyard to play. So yeah, you're going to be going wide and going quickly. You're going to be swinging a lot. Things happen, creatures die, that's okay. And essentially, this one is near unkillable. You just keep bringing it back again and again and again. It can swing right away, and again, it's got shadow, which is fantastic. And finally, speaking of shadow, $7.14, cheaper now than it used to be. 3/2, Dothy Rogue. We got Dothy Void Walker. Black shadow. Yeah, again, basically unblockable, essentially. If a card to put an opponent's graveyard from anywhere instead exile with a void counter on it, tap, sacrifice to choose an exile card. The opponent owns the void counter on it. You may play that card this turn without paying its mana cost. Yet another way to just steal your opponent's things. Yeah, Dothy is pretty crazy. But overall, Gonti, a lot of fun. A really fun build. Again, kind of like Edric with a dark twist to it, where it's like, everyone steal things! Yes! Money, treasure, yes! And with that, this episode is coming to a close. Make sure you comment below with your thoughts on this one. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.